Hello and welcome to CAD. Well, I guess it's CAD Live, right? But this is a new iteration of CAD Live. This is a little series within a series, which we're going to be calling. What are we calling it? The Euro Dating Show.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to do this for a little while. We're going to see how it goes, shoot the breeze, whatever, then review it after that. But having finished The Art of Seduction last week, it seemed like a nice idea to come up with something else. And of course, the thing is, right, that myself and Jack, if you haven't noticed, we are actually of a European heritage. We are distinct from many other creators in this space because we're not Americans. We don't wear red hats. As far as I know, maybe you wear one in the privacy of your own home, Jack. But
no, I actually do have a MAGA hat, though.
Do you?
I got it from a friend for my birthday. But
oh, nice.
I rarely wear it.
Rarely, just in the bedroom, just for those intimate moments.
Funny enough, though, back then when I got it, I had a girlfriend who was part of a sorority thing or something like that. I don't know how you translate that.
Yeah,
but that was full of like SJWs and lefties and all that. And she took a picture of herself with the hat and she sent it to me. I'm like, how bad would it be if I post this on Facebook? She's like, don't you dare. Because then everybody would be on her. Like, how dare you wear that hat? And blah, 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 blah. So
yes. Yeah. Well, everything's so polarized, everything's so tribal these days. But look, I mean, the point is, we are not Americans. It sounds a bit like a David Bowie song. I'm afraid of Americans, or whatever that song.
Yeah, I know that song.
I'm afraid of Americans, I think it's called.
Yeah, no. I know the song. 30 Seconds to Mars covered that one even.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've been listening to actually. No, well, I don't know. I mean, his version is called "I Think I'm Afraid of Americans," or something to that end. But the point is, we are not Americans. We are Europeans, and there aren't so many Europeans in this space that we inhabit. There are some people on the dating coaching side, of course, notably James Tusk, Tom Torero, Mr. Dave from Social Fluid, as you call him, and some other people like that. But people who are sort of covering the dating stuff, but also slightly wider topics. I think most of them are American or Canadian, really, aren't they? Or most of the prominent ones, anyway.
Most of them are. I mean, John's based in Tokyo, but you and I and Tusk are a few of the Europeans, and Sam, of course. Tom Torero, who is sort of pausing at the moment, as you say. And John, of course, is American. I mean, he's based in Tokyo, but he is obviously an American dude. So there's a certain kind of strength in that, I guess. Perhaps we bring just a slightly different perspective to this stuff. Obviously, we're on the other side of the world, so, that's kind of cool. And we'll expand this as we go into future episodes. But we were saying behind the scenes that I think, from what I can make out, I think that the situation in America is somewhat different, perhaps, than the situation that we see in, where we are in the United Kingdom and in mainland Europe, right? Mm-hmm. No, honestly,
seems to be.
Yeah, like the thinking process is a lot of the same. The whole, I want equality and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as push comes to shove, they don't want it. But they're still pretty. In all honesty, most Dutch women are actually pretty good looking.
Yes, indeed. Well, I've met several of them. And of course, we are in the heart of Europe. Well, I suppose technically I'm not anymore because of Brexit, but well, nevertheless, as even the Brexiters said, we're leaving the European Union. We're not leaving Europe. So we are still part of the continent. I mean, it's not like the islands are like suddenly floated off into the middle of the sea somewhere. So, we are still part of, even though we're not part of the European Union as of today, we are certainly still part of the continent. And I get over there quite a lot anyway. I mean, obviously, COVID has sort of wrecked everything, but I do like to travel over to mainland Europe on a regular basis. And I was actually over there, as you know, last week. So I got back to London. I'm now back in London. They let me back into the country. So we can talk about that. We can talk a bit about what things were like in Germany and in Berlin in particular. We could chat a little bit about what it was like to travel, because obviously we're still in this sort of COVID situation. And you can give us an update from the Netherlands. We can talk a bit about London and so on. I think what we should do in the next show is we should focus on European dating versus American dating. And one reason for that is because it seems to be a very popular search term on YouTube. A lot of people seem to be searching for that. So obviously, guys, there's some interest in that. So perhaps we can focus like the next program on that. We can do a little bit of prep in the background. But for today, because I'm pretty knackered, I've got jet lag from flying an hour from Berlin.
We don't have to go on for too long. That's fine.
No, I just thought we'd just shoot the breeze today, have a bit of a catch up, and then and sort of introduce the series, and then we can perhaps go into some more, well, slightly more planned out topics as we go forward, maybe.
Yeah, I'm more of a just wing it guy, so I'll follow along.
Well, well, that was the thing, isn't it? Because we've been doing all of these shows for the Art of Seduction, and there was quite a lot of preparation. I mean, there was for me at least, because I read the Art of Seduction, but the last time I read it was about a year ago. So I basically had to go through, skim read the chapters again, pick out the bits that I thought were the most interesting, pull out some quotes and things like this. And it takes a bit of time. It takes a little bit of preparation. And I'm not expecting anybody to be getting the tiny violin out, at home. But it does add substantially to the work day when you're also trying to do other things in the background as well. So these ones will riff it a little bit more. And as we've been saying as well, by the way, guys watching, we are also, I believe, keen to do 48 Laws of Power at some point, but I think we're not going to start that immediately because, we just need a bit of a break from the Robert Greene.
I've read that book so many times and listened to the damn audio so many times. It's almost memorized.
Oh, okay. Well, you can start
word by word, but
you could start now. Then I'll have a sleep, and then and then wake me up when you get to the end of chapter 1.
What's my first video even?
Wow, blimey! You're a real Greene aficionado. Probably more than me.
I wouldn't call myself that. I just love the 48 Laws of Power, and I went from there. And that was one of the, it's a living text, really.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm back in London today. I got back in yesterday, flew back into Heathrow. It was all reasonably straightforward, to be honest, but except that you have to jump through so many hoops at the moment to do even travel around this continent, right? So in order to go to Berlin, I had to get a COVID test in London, which I did the day before, got that, traveled into Berlin. It's currently, as I've said, it's until the 17th of May, it's strictly illegal to leave the UK for a holiday. But if you're going for work purposes or something else, then that's okay. So I got through that hoop, arrived in Berlin, was there for the week. And then, of course, I had to do another COVID test in order to travel back into the UK. And the reason, to be honest, I would likely still be in Berlin now, except because I need to quarantine for a while before I do an event with James Tusk in London later in the month. So I came back, and in order to come back, you have to get another COVID test, which I did. And even though that was negative, I now have to quarantine for a few days, and I've got to get another 3 tests before the end of the quarantine period, which is pretty nuts, really.
Why?
Well, what you have to do when you come back, so you get your negative test, they let you into the UK, they let you into the country, but then you have to quarantine for up to 10 days when you're back in the UK. But in that time, you need to get another 2 COVID tests on day 2 and day 8. But if you get a third COVID test on day 5, you get early release. So you can leave the quarantine early. So I'm just going to get all 3. Because that means that after Friday, I can just go out again and it's all fine.
As long as you're able to go out again, just go with it. Just go with it.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm doing everything that you're supposed to do, because what else are you going to do? But it does beg a belief, doesn't it? Really, that it's necessary to get 5 COVID tests. In order to go on a short break to Europe, and how like they know from the other day that I haven't got it, or I didn't have it when I entered the flight. You could say, well, maybe I picked it up on the flight, perhaps. But then, of course, everyone else on the flight was negative as well. So it's just kind of nuts, really. I think, but basically what I think they're doing, certainly in this country, is they just want to discourage people from traveling anywhere. So they're just making it as difficult as possible. You've got to fill in this long form. It's just ridiculously bureaucratic.
Draconian even. It's like, hey, people want to have fun. How can we make it the least amount of fun possible?
Well, and here's another thing, right? So I did have the idea, and this is another thing that we should pay lip service to on this show, because we're also, of course, very near to Russia, or relatively near to Russia. Now, I don't know if you've been to Russia, have you?
No, never.
Well, we need to go. But I've actually been quite a few times. And as I've said before on the channel with Tusk, I've got a Russian visa. So I was thinking, I had this idea, well, could I tack on a few days in Russia at the end of the trip to Berlin? Because I could have flown directly from Berlin to, well, I was looking at St. Petersburg or Moscow. I could have flown in directly, spent a couple of days there, and then come back. As it was, I couldn't leave till the Saturday. And there were no direct flights to St. Petersburg on the Saturday. There were a couple of direct flights to Moscow. But in the end, when I was weighing it up with all of this COVID BS, I just thought, you know what, it's not really going to be worth it, because I'm going to get to Moscow quite late on the Saturday night. I'll probably be really tired, force myself to go out, probably not enjoy it very much. Then I'll just have a couple of crappy days, you know, like a Sunday and a Monday in Moscow, which is not going to be great. And then I have to travel back again. And on top of that, 2 times the COVID nonsense, because I would have to get a test then in Moscow to get out of Moscow to get back to, do you know what I mean? It's just, so everything is so difficult at the moment with this travel situation that unless you're going for about a week at least, it just doesn't seem worth it.
It's just an entire hassle. I mean, I got my invitation for the vaccine, and I'm like,
right,
okay, I'm pretty healthy. Do I actually need the vaccine? Not really.
Yes.
But if it would mean I could like escape all the bullshit, I would gladly take it. It's like, okay, shoot me up. I'll see what happens.
I'm personally, I mean, I know people will disagree and have different opinions on this. Personally, I just don't really care. I mean, I just want to be able to travel and do normal things. So
they say
for me,
you become infertile because of it, and I'm like, okay, shoot me up, double safe.
I know, yeah. It's kind of like some of the side effects, to be honest, that they're talking about don't actually sound that bad. You know?
No. I mean,
it's like you might not be around. You might not be around in 10 years' time. Well, good.
Wow, save me the trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Aaron Clary. Aaron Clary talks about taking the Smith and Wesson route out. You know, when you reach a certain point, you're just like, look, I'm just going to Smith and Wesson it now. You know, don't bother about a pension or anything like that. Just, you know, there's the solution. Well, to be honest, if the COVID vaccine is the solution, then fair enough. So I mean, people bang on about these side effects and things. I mean, I just whatever, man. I don't really care. I just want to be, you know, and I suppose if you're that way minded, you would say, well, you're just folding into their frame because they want you to think that so that you can get your freedoms back. You have to get this jab. But I don't know. I've done so many dodgy chemicals that have probably been tested even less well than whatever the hell they put in that thing. I just don't really give a damn, to be honest.
You're almost like Lenny.
Well, yeah, not obviously not quite, but but yeah. So because listen, I mean, like travel is just so central to. Well, it's supposed to be so central to what I do. It kind of hasn't been for the last year or so, but it's supposed to be. And plus, obviously, having business and things in Berlin, I just need to be able to get around. You know,
yeah,
and if that's what they're going to do, that's what they're going to make you do. So,
I mean, why not just do it? Like I said, I mean, a side effect could be infertility. Well, save me a $400 on the vasectomy.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it done directly into my nutsack. To be honest, and just say, listen, guys, just as a favor, can you, you know, straight into the Vans deferens or whatever it's.
But in all seriousness, though, because vaccines have been normal for. I don't know how long. Like when you travel to Indonesia and other countries like that, you have to get vaccines. It's just part of the protocol. Now this and things that are happening and I don't know what. I have an idea. I have the feeling that there's so many differing opinions on the internet that just one guy with a little bit of following just claim the most outrageous thing and people will follow him anyway. And then you get these conflicting opinions. Now, do I trust the whole vaccine thing? I mean, I'm not a big fan of the whole depopulation theory. Not at all. So I'm like, just take it and we'll see what happens. I mean,
spin that roulette wheel, you know?
Well, kind of. I mean, some people have but they're the elderly. They already have complaints, things like that. So, I mean, come on, people.
Yeah.
If you're healthy and all that, just take it. Be done with it. They're not going to microchip your brain, I think. And even if so, what's the use of it? They're already listening to you because of this smartphone.
Yes, that is an argument that's used a lot. I also don't really buy the argument that some people are trying to make, which is along the lines of my body, my choice. That people are saying things, and these are people on the right, they're saying things like, so I have to undergo this invasive procedure. You know, you're forcing us to undergo this invasive procedure, and that's morally wrong. You know, it's my body. I should be able to choose and everything. I'm a bit like, yeah, but come on, man. It's not like you're getting bummed, is it? It's like a tiny, you know, I mean, it's not this terrible thing. It's a very, very minor, tiny injection, and then that's it. So, I mean, look, whatever. But listen, this is our opinion. We'll get flamed in the comments, I'm sure. There'll be people like, deep state actors and all this kind of thing. I just don't give a damn. I'm going to be dead in a few years' time anyway, so fuck it. Do you know what I mean? Let's keep the party rocking.
Yeah, I mean, my dad got the vaccine. I mean, that man is heavily overweight. He's still alive. Like, wow. He took
it. Well, Don DeMarco says, after some time, I'll be up for it if nothing crazy comes up amongst the general population. I mean, I think there's a difference between we're not talking about Euro dating at all, are we here, by the way? But we should be talking about injections of a very different kind. But I think there is a difference between believing that the whole purpose of this is for Bill Gates to microchip you so he can watch you doing whatever it is you do. And listen, I guess he's probably got less to do now, right?
Well, did you know he had a side piece?
No.
He did.
Really?
Yeah, Rolo did a show about it, and apparently Bill Gates had an ex-girlfriend who he could see once a year for a weekend on a private island. It's like, what?
I wasn't aware of that. Was she hot?
I mean, she was 50, so I mean,
yeah.
Jared
George says the elites want to see me wank. That's it. Like Bill Gates, right? Bill Gates maybe he's got the side piece, but he's got divorced. You know, the wife's out the house. There's less sort of, you know, it's not like, oh, Bill, can you wallpaper the spare room and all that kind of shit? You know, like he's got his time to himself now. So now with all these people being vaccinated, he's free to just sit on the computer and just flip around and just watch different people. It's like, oh, look, Jack Napier's building a Lego ship. How interesting. I think I'll watch that for a bit. Or, oh, Troy Francis is in a sex club in Berlin. This is a bit spicy. I think I'll watch for a bit and then turn it off. Or,
which
I don't know. You know.
Into a COVID testing center.
Kit Kat Club has, yeah. So Berlin, it was interesting because over in Berlin, right? Now here's the thing, right? I had to go because I had to do some stuff on the property I've got over there and meet some people and things like this. To be honest, I wasn't particularly looking forward to the trip because I thought it's opening up in London. Things are actually getting pretty cool here at the moment. Berlin is still locked down. You know, I don't really want to escape one lockdown that's actually opening up and then go to a place that's more locked down. But I had to do it. So I thought I'm just going to go, put up with it for a week and then come back. Actually, it was pretty cool over there, in my opinion. Now, when I say cool, I mean, things were still closed. The bars and restaurants aren't open. Obviously, the clubs aren't open, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even sit outside cafes and bars like you can in London, but the general mood was not too bad. There was a lot of people out and about. The shops are open. You can go into supermarkets, grocery stores, things like this, of course. Non-essential shops, you need to get a negative COVID test. Haircuts, you need to get a negative COVID test to go in. But the German government are laying on free COVID tests. So what's happened now is all over the city suddenly have sprung up all these mini COVID testing centers, and they all look. I was saying to Ernst Graf, they all look a little bit like brothels, because what you tend to get is a girl standing at the front wearing a surgical mask, enticing the punters into this little dodgy little shack, obviously in order to get their COVID COVID tests. But they look a little bit like the walk-ups used to look in Soho, when you'd have a girl outside trying to lure the punters in. So that was interesting. That's a change. But the general mood over there, I thought it was pretty good, particularly as the weather's getting a bit better.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's ironic they turned Kit Kat Club into a facility where they can put phallus objects in certain holes of the human body.
Yes, indeed. I'm thinking actually of going there for my test next time, because I have to, obviously, I've got to go again really in a couple of weeks after the thing that I'm doing with James. Got to go back. And then obviously when I want to leave again, I think possibly I'll go to Kit Kat Club to get it done, just out of curiosity to see how they've done the venue out. But the place where I actually did go to get mine done was recommended to me by a friend. And it was an old club, or it was an old warehouse that had been used as a club. And it was pretty cool inside, actually. It was like very, very high ceilings, very Berlin, old workshop type place that had been transformed into a somewhat minimalist, trendy sort of space. It's just very strange over there at the moment. All these buildings being requisitioned and made into COVID testing things. And like you say, the irony of somewhere like Kit Kat Club, which is basically where all manner of dodgy stuff has gone down in the past, now to be being dedicated to this very sanitized thing is really weird.
So I've been told. By the way, did you see Winston Wolf in the chat?
What did he say?
Tell us how to find coveted high-quality women, trademark. They hide in Europe. Well, you get ripped, you take a picture of it, you go on Tinder, and you wait on Friday night from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. There's a high-quality woman in there. Guaranteed. Ask me how I know.
Well, so what's your current situation with the dating apps then, and Tinder in particular? You're on at the moment? How's it going? What's the vibe like?
Okay, so I'm on Tinder. I average about one new girl a month, which is fine for me. Every now and again, I strike hot where it's a new one every week. Sometimes that lasts for like 2 to 3 weeks, which is nice. But then all of a sudden you get a 2-week dry spell, then you get a new one. Sometimes a 3-week dry spell, but never more than 3A4. So for me, that's good. Why? Because I'm a lazy bum. I'll be very honest with that. I've got narrations to do. I've got my normal job. I've got people to train. I have to train myself. And I just don't want to invest in day game, because the ROI in day game to me is just horrible. While I can go on Tinder.
I would say that the ROI on day game is fairly low, but that's not a reason not to do it, because it's still fantastic when it works. But I understand, because if you're time pressed like you are, then I totally get where you're coming from. By the way, just share the screen here. This is a picture that I pulled up of a high quality woman in Berlin. So if people can see that, basically you've got this young lady and it says Berlin, 9 a.m. after Berghain. And you've got this woman wearing a PVC kind of nurse's outfit type thing. This is the kind of thing, by the way, girls will typically wear in these sex clubs, in these fetish parties and stuff. And she's eating a Berlin doner kebab. That is a high quality woman for you. Berlin
they are
style.
Supposed to be the best doner kebabs ever.
Oh, they're amazing. They're fantastic. They're really, really good.
I really have to get one day.
Yeah, well, you need to come over. When we start to ease up a bit. I don't even know what your travel situation is at the moment. Can you travel, or could you go to? No. You can't go into Germany, can you? Or could you?
No, Germany's pretty locked down. Germany really is pretty locked down. Although, let's see, you gotta have a negative test. You gotta wear a special kind of face mask.
That's true.
And I don't think you can stay for too long.
Well, they let me in, but I'm in this strange position where I've got residency there.
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't use the word semi really on a family show, but I've sort of got residency there, or at least my residency is about to be confirmed under the Brexit agreement. So I've got documents. So when I go in, I show them the documents. They're like, okay, fine. And they just let me in. So that was cool as well. It was good to test that, because actually it's the first time I've been into mainland Europe since Brexit, since the EU, since Britain left the EU. And I have to say, I didn't notice anything different. I don't know whether Germany are just making it. I don't know if Germany are just not playing hardball with us, but I didn't notice having to queue for any excessive amounts of time or anything like that. We just got off the plane, got in the queues, and went straight through. It was fine.
No shady looks because you were British. Like, ooh, he's one of
those. No, not at all. Not at all. They were quite friendly, actually. They were quite friendly on both going in and then coming out again.
So we broke up on good terms, sort of say.
Well, not really, but I think on an individual level, it was fine. So yeah, that was good as well, because as I say, I hadn't tested going in since Brexit, or since Brexit really took hold, which was the end of December. So it was cool to have done that as well. But I have to say, overall, because we were chatting about this earlier, I enjoyed the trip. And it sounds strange to say that because, as I say, it was lockdown. There was no crazy clubs. There was no bars. There was no cafes, really. No gyms either. But it was just good to go somewhere different. It was just good to get the hell out of London, where I've been basically holed up for the last 8 months or something. It was just fantastic to get out and go somewhere different and see some different stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm. Did you have time to do day game in Berlin?
I didn't, actually. I was just working, really. I was doing very similar to what I do here. Just I transported everything over there. So I really try to prepare this bloody dating conversation success product, which you've also worked on as well. And I've been not procrastinating, but it's been taking me longer than I thought, putting together certain elements of it. I'm still doing it now. So when I was over there, I was working on that. I was doing some live shows. That was kind of it, really. But it was certainly day gameable. It certainly was. If you wanted to do day game, it was the opportunities were certainly there, because there were a lot of people out and about. Like I said, people seemed in a good mood. The vibe seemed very good. The other thing about Berlin is I love it because it's so grimy. It really, really is. And it's just, well, particularly the part where I'm based, because I'm on the U8. So the subway line called the U8, it goes from, Neukölln up to Alexanderplatz, and then for wherever beyond that, up into Prenzlauer Berg and stuff. And the lower end of the U8 is really, really sort of grimy. And it's kind of fascinating. It reminds me a bit of, you know how they show New York at the beginning of The Joker?
Yeah.
It's got that kind of vibe. It's like this grimy, there's loads of graffiti. And the addiction situation over there is off the hook. There are just so many drug addicts hanging around. You see people in the stations. It's just nuts. It's really, really nuts. But it's a really interesting, edgy sort of vibe.
Nice. I really need to travel more, but I've been so, how do I phrase that? So focused on reaching that certain goal that I always kept travel on a down low. Like very sporadically, somebody came up with, hey, let's go to the Siget Festival. And then I was like, should I do it? You know what? Like, give yourself something. Or Istanbul was great. But
you went to Istanbul?
Yeah.
When did you go?
Oh, man. When was this? 2016, 15. It's probably 5 to 6 years ago. Something like that. It's a long, long time ago. Speaking about that, by the way, like American and European dating, when you're a European trying to date in America, that's like winning a goddamn lottery ticket. That is shooting fish in a barrel, my friend. Seriously.
Have you actually done that, though? Or are you just saying that from a...
Every time I met an American, she was infatuated by me.
Oh, they love it.
What it is, but by
they love it.
God, negging works perfectly on Americans. And I mean, being an American just gives you so much material.
Yes. Well, look, let's hold that fire on that until the next episode, because I think we should dedicate a whole episode to American versus Euro dating. And maybe we can get somebody on who's done both. Maybe somebody like, say, Sterling Cooper actually could be a good shout, because he's based in America now, but he spent a lot of time in Europe as well. So maybe we could hit him up or someone like that.
That's not even fair. It's like my accent, your British accent, and then Sterling is somewhere around here with that Thunder from Down Under accent. That's like God mode in America. It's like, oh my God, he's Australian.
And also, he's got quite a sort of refined Australian accent as well, hasn't he? Which I imagine
good voice
would help. He has a very, very good voice indeed. So there's a few questions in the chat about. Oh, by the way, Backland Bob says, Troy Francis, you're back again. Hair on point, no homo. Congrats on 1 million views. Cheers, bro. Thank you very much. I celebrated 1 million views last week, which for me seemed like quite a big milestone. I mean, if you're fresh and fit, it's a bit like, I don't know, a sort of a drop in the ocean, really, isn't it? But for me, it seemed like a big milestone. So that was cool. And yeah, thanks very much for that, man. What else did I want to address? So C. Joel says, is Germany fully operational? Bars, venues open? So the thing about Germany is that it's divided into states, like the United States. So you have these different states and things are somewhat different across the individual states. So I can only really speak to Berlin because that's where I was, which is in the state of Brandenburg. And there things are pretty locked down in the sense that bars are not open, venues are not open. I think in some other places, it's a little bit more lenient. Actually, Abu American was telling me, because he lives in Germany, he was telling me where he is, things are pretty back to normal. So it very much depends on where you are in the country. But unfortunately, Berlin is not fully operational at present. But apparently, there's talk that they're going to open up the restaurants and the outdoor bar areas again soon. So that's going to be good, right?
Yeah, same as in the Netherlands. They've opened the stores again, but not the bars. However, they have opened the terraces. That's
good. That's good. Well, what's the weather like over there at the moment? Very British conversation.
Well, I know, but it's warm, but it's rainy. So it is actually pretty British weather.
Oh, okay. Okay. There was a crazy day in Berlin, right, where it was literally snowing. Thursday, I think it was, snowing in the morning. Couldn't believe it. May. I mean, by May, it's usually meant to be pretty hot. Bloody snowing, and really big bits of snow coming down as well. In the afternoon, quite nice. And then yesterday, it was about 23 or something. I went for a run in the morning and it was actually pretty warm, pretty hot. So it's all over the place. But hopefully the spring is starting to come in because, of course, when the spring kicks in,
short skirts.
Well, yes, exactly. But the outdoor stuff really comes into its own then, doesn't it? And Berlin as well. Anybody think you're visiting? I tell you what, that city, it's like day and night, the difference between winter and spring and summer. It's just a completely different place. It's really noticeable that. I think partly because it gets so cold in the winter. You know, winter, you could be standing in the queue for Berghain and it's like sub 10 or something. You know, it's very, very cold. Summer, beautiful, gets pretty warm, it gets very hot sometimes. Loads of parks, loads of outdoor seating, outdoor venues, stuff like that. It's just brilliant. Brilliant, amazing place in the summer. Winter, it's bloody cold. But
oh, yeah. Didn't Tate once say that? Hose never get cold. Can be minus 40. Dance outside in a miniskirt. No complaints. Hose
that's
never
true.
Get cold.
That's true. That's true. And that's what they say in Great Britain as well. Because if you go north, where it tends to be colder anyway than in London, you go up to Liverpool or Manchester or Newcastle, places like that. And you just get those pictures of girls with their tiny skirts on, tottering on in their high heels down the street, etc., etc. And no, the cold doesn't seem to affect them at all. So it's a superpower.
Yet when they're here, it's always like, I'm so cold. Put on the heater. It's like,
what? Is that a thing in the Netherlands? Do you get girls tottering around, skirts on?
I haven't gone out in ages, but from what I remember, it does happen. It's like, it's so weird. Normally, they always complain I'm cold. Yet when they go out, all of a sudden, they don't feel it.
It is very odd. I have to say, if I go out wearing shorts and say it was hot during the day and then it gets cold during the evening and I'm still wearing the shorts, I don't like to be showing that amount of leg, to be honest. I find it gets cold and I don't like it. So I don't know how these girls put up with it, really. It's a hell of a skill set, I guess.
I mean, everything for the dick, I guess.
Well, indeed.
They have to pull through. You're not gonna get a high quality guy with jeans.
Exactly. Of course, Eastern Europe also tends to be a place where women will wear skirts more, they'll wear dresses more, and so on and so forth. Although in Russia, they do get very wrapped up in the winter. A lot of even the young ladies are wearing big fur coats and things, which kind of odd because you sort of associate that with the old babushkas, the old grandmothers, but the young girls wear the fur coats as well, and they look pretty good. Winston says, in Romania, bars are low capacity inside, open outside, but most close at 9, plus countrywide curfew at 10. It's gotten better. Yeah. Out of interest, how strictly are they applying the curfew at 10? Because when I was in Berlin, and this was the other thing, because as I went over to Berlin, I'd read there was a curfew at 10, and I thought, well, that's a bit shit. As it turned out, there is a curfew till 10, but if you're out on your own, either walking or running, then actually midnight is okay. So I think they're just trying to discourage groups. So if you're just doing a solo activity, up to midnight was okay. Now, one evening, I think it was the Thursday, I went to my friend's place to have a bite to eat, and he introduced me to his girlfriend, and it was a very nice evening. We were chilling, but I didn't get there till quite late. I got there about 9, sat down, had dinner, chatting, blah, blah, blah. And then it was about 11:15, and I said, oh, damn, I better go because the curfew's going to kick in. So I left, and then the S-Bahn that I had to go back on was messed up. There was some engineering works going on. And I was like, oh, shit. So I had to take this really weird route back. And it was going to go past midnight. And I thought, well, I'm just whatever, right? I mean, I've tried. I'm just going to have to explain if they stop me. But incredibly, there were just loads of people on the subway. There were loads of people still out. And I saw police in the stations and stuff like that. Nobody said anything. They didn't seem that bothered. So even though theoretically you're meant to be at home by midnight, I don't know how much I tell a lie. I did actually see some police taking names and writing things down in a notebook on a couple of the station platforms, but they didn't say anything to me. So I really don't know. It's odd. I don't think they're enforcing it that much. But then there must be like workers. There must be essential workers who have to travel after that time anyway.
Well, I guess, yes. I did know that when the Netherlands had a curfew, they put like police on the freeway.
Jesus.
But luckily, curfew's over. And then a couple of days later, they came out with an article like, curfew didn't help to retain the contaminations of COVID. I'm like, really?
None of it helps. None of it helps at all. I mean, lockdowns are in themselves. Well, you've just got to look at Florida, haven't you? You look at Florida, you look at these other places that are open, and they seem to be doing okay. So there is certainly evidence that lockdowns in themselves don't work. The very least you could say, the very most you could say about lockdowns is that perhaps they reduce it for a bit, but it doesn't solve the problem. It just pushes it down the road. And I have seen the argument made that actually lockdowns are damaging because they reduce our immunity to other things. Because if you've been sitting around in a house for 6 months, then you're not getting out and you're not encountering those germs that you would otherwise have got some immunity to. So but anyway, I mean, the whole thing is obviously nonsensical.
Well, and that's kind of the funny thing, because even since this whole COVID thing struck, girls really don't care.
Girls.
They don't care. Seriously. I've had...
Is that just because you're targeting low-quality women, Jack?
Could be, but at least I'm getting laid.
Don't care, got laid.
No, seriously. Like, who the hell cares? Like, I don't want to get married. I don't want a relationship. Low quality, good. Come at me.
Exactly. The lower, the better. We should do a show. We should do a show how to find a low-quality woman.
Oh man, that's easy. Just go to your local drugstore. You'll find one.
Indeed.
No, but in all seriousness, I've had plenty of dates even during this whole COVID lockdown thing. They came over. They let me came over. No hassle about, are you negative or positive? They didn't even care. They didn't even ask. Yeah, at a certain point, they asked, like, what's your opinion on this? And I'm like, well, I'm here. Am I not? That's
Well,
my opinion.
what did they say in the main? Were they just sort of like, oh, it's just whatever, you know?
Yeah, mostly that. Like, oh, I do take it seriously, but you don't want to restrict yourself too much. I'm like, I know, honey. Like,
But that is, I think, according to the research, that is the attitude that most people have taken to it. Certainly, almost definitely most younger people. And I say younger, I'm talking under 50, really, or maybe even older than under 60. I'm sure there are some people who take it very seriously and they followed everything to the letter. But in Britain, it's been discovered that a lot of people pay lip service to the restrictions. A lot of people say, yes, I think the restrictions are a good thing. We need to protect the NHS, save lives, blah, blah, blah. They say that, but then they're not actually following all the rules, or at least they're letting themselves off the hook. So, and perhaps we've all been guilty of that. I can't obviously incriminate myself on here, but I think most people could recognize that you might think, okay, well, I'll kind of go along this to an extent, but if I need to do X, then I'm just going to do it because why not, right? And I think most people are doing that. So you've got all these people on. This is why the polls in Britain say that everyone's in favour of lockdowns, or that a large proportion of people were in favour of lockdowns. Well, they might have said that to the pollster because it sounded like the right thing to say, but it doesn't mean they're actually following all the rules. And I think that's the thing. If you want to have a shag and there's the opportunity to go over to someone's house and you're very unlikely to get caught, even if you're not supposed to do it, well, you're probably just going to do it, aren't you? That's human nature.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, it's depending on who asks you, I guess, will influence the answer. I've always been a bit blunt about it, where I'm like, well, I'm healthy. I've had it. 3 days of headache, and that was it. Bit of a muscle ache.
Yes.
Other than that, no, and I'll take care of myself. And I'm pretty disagreeable. I score low on agreeableness. Let's phrase it like that. So when somebody tells me what to do, they better have a good goddamn opinion on why I shouldn't do something or why I should do something. But when it came to this, I mean, it didn't affect my dating life at all until the curfew. Because then you had to get creative. And believe me, girls can get very creative when they want to bang you.
Well, would you say even that it in some ways improved things? Or did you see an uptick in the figures at all? Because I would suggest that actually when you deny something, there's all of that pent-up demand. And it would be really interesting. I don't know if any of the dating apps have released data on this as yet, but it would be really interesting to know, because I suspect actually there's been a hell of a lot of covert activity happening in countries in places like London, in places like where you are, probably Berlin as well, and everywhere else, right?
Huh, I have no idea actually.
But you certainly didn't see a dip.
No, I certainly did not see a dip. Absolutely not. No.
What's your view then on the Roaring 20s theory that we keep talking about, we keep hearing about, that when this does finally start to ease, we're going to see, an incredible orgy going on? And I mean, obviously for the purposes of this show, what do you think in Europe? Can you see that happening?
I don't really know. And what I mean by that is I haven't hit a dry spell longer than 3 weeks in this entire lockdown thing. And what that tells me is girls who want to have sex will have sex nonetheless. Guys who can get it will get it.
Right.
So the whole Roaring 20s thing might be a bit of a cope for guys who are not getting it right now and think that as soon as everything opens up, I can score chicks again. Mate, seriously.
People have been doing it anyway.
People have been scoring left and right.
That's interesting. I was reading a post on Red Pill Reddit, actually, a few days ago, talking about this. And the OP was making the argument that there is going to be all this pent-up demand. And he was saying, essentially, look, if you were getting yourself in the right position during the quarantine, during the lockdown, So you're fit, you're in shape, you've got your money sorted, you've bought ETH and all that shit. Then, you're going to be in a good position to enjoy the fruits as the lockdown eases. But what you're saying is somewhat different today. What you're saying is kind of like, well, demand has already been satisfied amongst the, let's say, higher status people, or within, let's say, within the top 20%.
Your words, not mine. I won't describe myself as that.
What you're saying is I'm fucking hot, and so therefore none of this affects me. But no, but there is an element of that, though, isn't there? It's a bit like when people talk about this hasn't really affected the rich in quite the same way, because they'll always find a way to travel. They'll always find a way to be on the beach. They'll always find a way to do this and that. And perhaps sexually, that's the same thing. The haves are still getting what they need to get. The have-nots perhaps aren't. So if that's the case, then if you've got all these beta males, let's say, just to coin that phrase, who are sitting there going, "Oh, I can't wait until it all opens up again, because then there's going to be this bounty." But the girls that they would probably like to get with are likely already satisfied. They don't have that pent-up demand because they've already been having sex with you.
Well, yeah. that comes down to it. No, but in all honesty, I mean, I've told this story before. I have had plenty of matches. Like, what are you doing tonight? Are you, me, or we nobody? Okay, let's go.
So you don't feel, in all seriousness, you don't feel there's been any drop in traffic on those sites, or the sort of number, not even the conversions that you're getting, but just the sort of like the flow through that you're seeing is totally normal, you would say? Totally normal. Well, yeah. Okay. So, well, that's interesting.
I mean, I don't have a very high opinion of myself. I mean, I don't think I'm a complete idiot, but I know there's better out there. Know what I'm saying? Like, I know there's a higher level, but that's why I'm always so surprised. I'm like, I'm a bum, yet I have success in the dating market. What's preventing you? What is all this about? Oh, I can't get laid. What do you mean you can't get laid?
Well, they haven't read The Art of Seduction and The 48 Laws of Power as many times as you, so perhaps it could be down to that. Ian says, I've had longer dry spells, but still been getting some. Day game has only just past month or so become feasible again. That's true. And it will become even more feasible after May the 17th, because in Britain anyway, because various things get opened up further. And that's why me and James Tusk are doing a training in London from the 20th up until the 23rd. So it's 4 days of training, 4 hours per day, intense training with myself, James, have some other guys helping us out as well. If you want any further info on that, just drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com. Most of the places are sold now. There's, I think, a couple left, or maybe just one left. So if you're interested, drop me a line and we'll see if we can get you on. Put your WhatsApp in there as well. We can have a chat about it. So that's a little commercial there. That's exciting. But I think one thing that probably will happen, though, is I take your point and I think you're right. But when stuff starts to open socially, what's going to happen is you're going to get a load of people going out because everyone wants to, because they haven't been able to for so long. There's going to be a lot of partying. There's going to be a lot of drinking and all the rest of it. And I suspect off the back of that, we are going to see an uptick in activity, just because more people are going to be coming together in social spaces in a way that they haven't for the last year. So I think, even taking into account what you're saying, we will still see a bit of a party atmosphere in Europe hopefully over the summer, if things continue to open up. Because basically what's happening in the United Kingdom and in London next week, from next Monday, is that bars and restaurants can open again. So inside venues can open, not nightclubs, but bars, restaurants, hotels can open up again as normal. So that does make a difference, because you're going to get a bunch of people going out. You're going to get people going to these venues, drinking, intermingling, stuff like that. And I think just off the back of that, we're going to see an uptick in activity.
And I do agree with that, because girls are social. I mean, humans in general are social creatures, but especially women. They want to go out and mingle with their girlfriends and things like that. Now that the terraces are open again, all you see is girls. All you see is girls, women, whatever, babbling about nonsense, whatever they feel like talking about. So yes, that will happen a lot more. There will be a lot more. How do I phrase that? SNLs without dating apps going on.
Yes, exactly. And I think as well, we can't know for sure, can we? Because we're only going off effectively your experience. So we've got a sample size of one. I do completely believe what you're saying. I completely take on board what you're saying. And I imagine you're right. But at the same time, when I got back here last night, I was walking down the street to where I live, and I was seeing these girls walking down the street, and they were all like ridiculously dressed up for a Sunday night, given that the bars still aren't open, although the outside bars are. So you've seen all these girls walking around, and guys to some extent as well, dressed up, because now finally people have got a bit of freedom. They can we can go out again, And these were the sorts of people that I wasn't seeing walking around a month or so ago. There are definitely, because I was kind of walking around just as normal, really, going around the city, and there were people around, but you're definitely seeing people who probably have been out of circulation for a long time now out and about again. And I think it's really interesting to see what happens in the UK, because I suspect we're going to see a bit of an explosion next week. I know last summer in Soho, when the bars reopened, it just went nuts. And it was just like this mad bacchanalian, kind of like craziness going on. So I think we are going to start to see that again. And of course, this is really well timed for the kicking in of the summer.
Nice. Yeah, that's going to be fun, though. That's going to be fun.
I mean, having said that, of course, the story is somewhat different across Europe. As I say, Berlin at the moment, not a lot happening. Because the vaccine rollout has been slower, we've been quite fortunate over here. We've done plenty of things wrong over the years, but the vaccine rollout has been pretty fast here. So, but Europe is speeding up, isn't it? How are things in the Netherlands?
Well, I got my invitation to get the Holy Glory.
And you're only 16, so they must have got through.
Yeah, they've
a lot of the ages
pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, apparently I am in the risk group of all people,
really?
because as a child I had asthma.
Right. Okay. I understand.
So, apparently, me of all sons of bitches is part of a risk group. I mean, I could hear some of my friends think, like, why is this son of a bitch getting a vaccine and I'm not? Like, him? Really?
Clary must have been offered his. He must have been offered it about 6 months ago.
Yeah, something like that. They don't want him to die, and I mean, he's old. And
Ian says, Troy, as a purveyor of fine wordsmithery, do you dislike the use of training as a noun? Yes, I do dislike it, actually. I just used it. So what he's talking about is when you say, I've got an exclusive training coming up to offer you guys, or I am, well, like I just said, we are offering a training in London on XY, it's May the 20th to May the 23rd. I do dislike it, yes. But like with many of these things, because I hear other content creators using it, I sometimes slip it in there myself. Were you aware of that use of the word, Jack?
No. Not really.
I've heard it, not so much in the dating space, but more, I follow some e-commerce type people, e-commerce influencers, and I've heard them using it, saying, oh, just come along to this training about how to set up your Shopify store.
Oh, we use that all the time in the Netherlands. Like, even with work, like, you need to come in for a training. It's like, oh.
But not a training session. It's a training.
Mm-hmm.
That's the annoying thing, because it used to be, oh, come along for a training session, or come along for a training day, or there'll be something else, because and now they're just using training as the noun on its own, and that's why it's annoying.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You feel like a dog. It's like, what? Training? Potty training or something?
Exactly. Ian says, let's take Jack to Cancun for his 17th birthday. Yeah, man. I mean, like, all roads lead to Cancun. I think it's inevitable at some stage we'll be doing this show live from Cancun, and probably getting foam in the equipment.
I think that will be like the ultimate meetup of ultimate podcasters. Like, all of the Rule Zero crowd, Masculine Geek, me, Rob, Clary, all of them just at Cancun with a foam cannon, making it real.
Stripped to the waist, ripped, partying like there's no tomorrow. Slaying.
That will be the end of the manosphere.
Well, I mean, like, what greater height could you take it to? Really?
None.
You know,
None.
I do
Other
quite
than
like
smashing a hammer and scream guilty. But
guilty. Oh shit. Guilty. Guilty.
he is just pissed he doesn't have a foam cannon.
Well, I actually quite like foam parties, or I used to quite like foam parties. There's a lot in Ibiza, actually. There are foam parties regularly at the club. What's it called? Es Paradis. They regularly have a foam party there. They used to have a foam party at the outdoor club Bora Bora, which was quite fun. Yeah, kind of cool. I don't mind the odd foam party. I suppose I'm a little bit mature for it now, let's say. But back in the day, bit of a foam party, all good.
Like, is there, and this might be something personal that you don't want to answer to me, and you don't have to, but have you ever gotten where you want to enter one of these parties and like the guy at the door was like, mate, no.
What, because of age?
Yeah.
How dare you? I think I still look...
I think you look great for your age. I'm aiming for it, but...
No, thank you. No, I haven't. But whether that would... I think it wouldn't happen in the UK now because they could probably get sued because it would probably count as... It would probably be a hate crime because it would be ageism and whatever, right? So no, in Ibiza, in Berlin, it's not an issue at all because you get guys literally in their 60s with covered in 70s, covered in tattoos, still partying. So Berlin, that's not an issue at all. Nice. Ibiza, probably not an issue, to be honest. So it depends where they might view it as being an issue. But I think it's unlikely in most of the places that I've go to. I don't think it would happen in London because I think they might find another excuse to turn you away if they wanted to. But even then, you've had these instances of clubs and venues being sued by people. Like they used to turn people away because they weren't good looking enough. They turned girls away because they weren't hot enough to come in. And there have been instances now of the clubs actually getting sued or having legal action taken against them by these women saying, well, how dare you? So it's trickier now to enforce that kind of thing than perhaps it once was.
I have so much traveling to do when I got everything set. There's just so much to see. But it will be worth it.
Marlon says, another age of debauchery coming soon. It will be worldwide. Foam cannon parties will be so 90s. And, well, I hope so, because I do take on board what Jack says, and I think that there's a lot of wisdom. And obviously he has the insight, and I think he's right. But I do hope that we see a whole explosion of degeneracy because, well, it'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Let's face it.
Mm-hmm. But seriously, if you're not getting laid right now, that's on you, in all honesty.
It's on you. It's on you. Juan, are you based in Ibiza? He says, in Ibiza, you just need to buy the ticket. That's true. And you get guys in their 50s in Pasha popping bottles, which also is true. You do get a lot of older guys in Ibiza, and well, you buy the ticket from vendors outside, so you just buy the ticket, turn up, and it's not really a problem. There's a place in London called Inferno's, which anybody watching this from London will know about because it's a very famous, incredibly cheesy venue, and it's kind of down the road from where I live, actually. And what's a bit embarrassing about Infernos is that you have to show your passport to show or some form of ID to show your age, and they put it on this thing, and then it flashes up your age. So, and I don't think that's to shame anybody. It's just to make it visible to the door staff. But I think I might feel a little bit embarrassed doing that now. The answer to the question is no, though. It's never been an issue to this point.
Okay, cool.
ENS. Oh God, Infernos. There you go. That's the kind of.
I also need to go somewhere near Brazil and indeed Mexico because Tinder has now screwed up a couple of things, and they have passport on always, so you can match worldwide. For some odd reason, they love me. I don't know why. But apparently...
did you talk to Fluid Social? Did you talk to Sam much about Brazil?
We talked a bit about that. Not necessarily in the show we did together last week, but before that, during the show with Tusk. They did mention that, yeah, if you're European in Brazil or whatever that area, you're going to do well.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to get over to Mexico. And actually, I'd love to get over to Brazil as well. I was hoping that I might have been able to around now, but because of the dates for various things, I just can't. And I think, as talking to Tusk, I think as we get into summer in Europe, his advice is just stay in Europe because it's awesome. And then go there when it gets cold here. So I probably missed the boat for the time being, but maybe later in the year get over to those areas, particularly Mexico, particularly Brazil. Both of them I find I'm really interested in going to. So yeah, watch this space because I think that would be awesome. I mean, the key thing you want to do really is you want to chase the sun around. You don't want to be sitting in Northern Europe freezing your knackers off when you could be on.
One of the things I promised myself, it's like there will come a day where I will never be cold again.
So I interviewed James Marshall. I think you saw some of it, perhaps. Yeah. I interviewed James Marshall from the Natural Lifestyles, who's a fantastic guy, very perceptive, intelligent, etc. Anyway, watch the interview if you guys haven't seen it. It's up on the channel, a couple of videos back or last video. But he was saying, because he's run that company for 12, 13 years, whatever it is now. He was saying that he hasn't seen a winter for 10 years.
Oh, wow. That's got to be bliss. That's got to be heaven.
Yes.
Wow.
Because
Can you imagine? For 10 years, no snow, no cold, no nothing.
Yeah. So, that is the life. And that is the life that we should all aspire to, definitely, particularly in these decentralized days of, well, all the nonsense that we got going on now, plus all the benefits of decentralized finance, crypto, the internet.
This is not financial advice.
It's not. But just become a dating coach because it's a fucking awesome. It's a fucking awesome life.
It is.
That's it. The final message. Look, so we need to wrap up because we've been on for over an hour now. Anybody got any final questions? Backland Bob says, will you be doing more bootcamps with Tusk, or is it just a one-off? It's locked down still for most of us. Where are you based, though? Are you in the UK? I can't remember. But the answer is yes, we'll be doing more stuff together. When the next one in the UK is, I'm not certain, but there's other stuff going on around Europe and elsewhere. So yes, absolutely, watch out for that. If you want any more info on that, drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and we can sort something out. Yeah, okay. I'm just seeing if there's any other juicy questions. But in the meantime, Jack, did you have anything that you wanted to push this week? What you got coming up? Where they can find you?
Let's see. I have my own channel, of course, and I'm doing a live stream with Ryan Stone tomorrow. And it's not about dating or the Red Pill or anything. We're going to talk about video games because he needs to explain Minecraft to me because I really don't get it. And I am going to drag that boomer kicking and screaming to understand Pokemon because he still doesn't get it. New video is dropping tomorrow, a Red Evening short. Other than that, of course, the Gendernomics audiobook. Where is that link? Here we go. You can get that. It is a bundle. I put great effort into it. 2 audiobooks about the sexual marketplace, how it works, how to navigate it, and how to build up your own value. And that is that.
Great stuff. So make sure you subscribe to Jack's channel and also get on board with the audiobook for Gendernomics because it's awesome. We've also got some projects coming up as well, haven't we? And by the way, on that, side note, I will get back to you about part 1 of The Thing. Now I'm back. I've got time to crack on with that. So I will get back to you about that soon. But we've got a couple of things that are coming up very soon. So watch this space, dudes. That's about it, really. Please do hit the subscribe button. Please do hit the notifications bell. Please give us a like or a dislike. Give us a comment in the comment section below. All helps to tickle the algorithm, boost the audience, get more people on board, etc. That's it for today, but we'll be back very, very soon. Good to see everyone in the chat, as always. Silver Bishop, Ian, C. Joels, who else is on there? Winston, strategic dating. Belgrade, I think, is open, by the way, from what I've heard, but I can't confirm that. Yeah, everybody in the chat, Rafferty, thank you very much. Good to see all you guys. Sorry to anyone I forgot. We'll see you again